Nebuchadnezzar II, the greatest king of ancient Babylon. A powerful leader who reigned during the Neo-Babylonian Empire period, leaving a lasting legacy in history. Succeeding his father, Nabopolassar, founder of the empire, Nebuchadnezzar was known for his grandeur and at the same time for his opposition to God. His father, Nabopolassar, freed Babylon from Assyrian rule and provided Nebuchadnezzar with a stable base and abundant wealth to build his empire. Just as Alexander the Great would later capitalize on the resources left by his father Philip II of Macedonia. Nebuchadnezzar married Amytis of Media, securing an alliance between the Medes and Babylonians. It is said that Nebuchadnezzar had the famous Hanging Gardens of Babylon built, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, as a tribute to his wife Amytis so that she would feel at home in her native land, Persia. Nebuchadnezzar II. He was the ruler of Babylon and is known for his reputation as a warrior and powerful leader. However, his image is controversial as he is portrayed in different ways in various historical sources. Let's find out more about this fascinating character. Let's go! It seems that his patron god Marduk heard his prayer, and under his reign Babylon became the most powerful city-state in the region, and Nebuchadnezzar II the greatest warrior king and ruler of the known world. However, he is portrayed unfavorably in the Bible, mainly in the book of Daniel and the book of Jeremiah, where he is seen as an enemy of God and someone whom the deity of Israelites intends to make an example, or conversely God's agent used as a scourge against unfaithful followers of Yahweh. But who was Nebuchadnezzar II? He was born c. 634 BC in the region of Chaldea in southeastern Babylon. His name is Nabuchodonosor, Nabu, preserve my firstborn son, in Chaldean, while Nebuchadnezzar is the name by which Israelites knew him. Akkadian Nebuchadnezzar. He was the eldest son of a Babylonian general in the Assyrian army, Nabu-apli-uzzar, Nabu, protect my son, better known as Nabopolassar. At that time, the Assyrian Empire still controlled the region but was in its last days. The empire had grown too large to be maintained and began to weaken towards the end of the reign of the last great Assyrian king Ashurbanipal, r. 668 to 627 BC. In 616 BC, Nabopolassar began his journey to form an empire, conquering territories and accumulating resources. His son, Nebuchadnezzar II, succeeded him and used these resources to strengthen his military forces and engage in monumental projects. Nebuchadnezzar II annexed all the former regions of the Assyrian Empire and crushed any resistance. In 598/597 BC, he marched on the kingdom of Judah in Canaan, besieging Jerusalem and sending its elite citizens back to Babylon in a period known as the Babylonian captivity. Judah's resistance resulted in another round of military campaigns between 589 to 582 BC, which reduced the kingdom and dispersed its population. But Nebuchadnezzar II's ambition was not limited to military conquest alone. He also undertook monumental construction projects, completely renovating and refurbishing 13 cities, with the most famous being Babylon. One of the most important projects was the reconstruction of the great ziggurat known as Etam-Enki, which had been destroyed by Assyrian king Sennacherib. Reconstruction began under Nabopolassar's reign and was completed by Nebuchadnezzar II. The Etam-Enki, with its towering rising tower, is considered the inspiration for the biblical Tower of Babel. Around 600 BC, Babylon became an impressive city, considered the center of the world not only by Babylonians but also by other regions. A clay map dated from this period, discovered in Sippar and currently in the British Museum, presents the world revolving around Babylon. This map reveals the self-confidence and worldview of the Babylonians, who highlighted the great temples and monuments, making them accessible by new roads and creating the processional way for the festival of Marduk, where the statue of the god paraded through the city and beyond its gates. The processional way was an impressive 70 feet wide and extended for over half a mile from the temple complex at the heart of the city to the Ishtar Gate in the north. Its walls rose over 50 feet on either side and were decorated with over 120 images of lions, dragons, bulls, and flowers in gold. The Ishtar Gate was one of the most majestic entrances to the city. Built by Nebuchadnezzar II, it was adorned with cedar doors adorned with bronze and images of wild bulls and fierce dragons. Nebuchadnezzar II was extremely proud of the Ishtar Gate and processional way, as he himself described in an inscription he left behind. But while the processional way and Ishtar Gate were impressive, they were not the only treasures of Babylon. The Hanging Gardens are considered one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, although their existence is disputed due to lack of archaeological evidence. According to accounts, the gardens were built by a later Syrian king to please one of his Persian concubines who missed the mountainous landscapes of her homeland. The Hanging Gardens extended over 4 platforms on each side and were built in layers like a theater with galleries supporting the weight of the planted garden. The highest gallery was 50 cubits high and supported the highest surface of the park, which was level with the circuit wall of the battlements of the city. These gardens were built in Nineveh, capital of the Assyrian Empire, during the reign of the famous king Sennacherib. The walls surrounding these gardens were huge, 22 feet thick. And the corridor between each 2 walls was 10 feet wide, providing a spacious and imposing space. The ceilings of the galleries were covered with stone beams and layers of resistant materials such as reeds, baked bricks, and even lead. All this to ensure that moisture from the soil did not penetrate and harm these magnificent gardens. The galleries projected one beyond the other and all received light, housing many royal dwellings. In addition, there were ingenious water machines that supplied water in large quantities to the gardens, raising it from the river in secret so that no one outside could see how it was done. A true marvel of engineering at the time. Although there is speculation about the exact location of these gardens, many scholars believe they were located in Nineveh, capital of the Assyrian Empire. Sennacherib, a Syrian king, famously made Nineveh the jewel of the empire, just as Nebuchadnezzar II would later do in Babylon. It is believed that Nineveh, the Assyrian city, was known for its stunning parks and gardens. And based on historical records and the temporal distance between the reign of Nebuchadnezzar II and accounts of the Hanging Gardens, some scholars now believe they were in fact located in Nineveh. Diodorus, a Greek historian, described the gardens in his book, mentioning that they would have been created for the semi-mythical Assyrian queen Semiramis. However, this description may have been confused with a later story about Nebuchadnezzar II and his wife Amytis. Despite no physical evidence of the Hanging Gardens having been found in Babylon, many believe that Nebuchadnezzar II, known for his grandeur and love for the city, could have built them there. After all, he elevated Babylon to its greatest splendor, making it one of the most glamorous cities of the ancient world. However, not everyone had a positive view of Babylon. The Hebrew scribes responsible for the accounts in the Bible did not always share the same admiration for the city, which affected the reputation of the Hanging Gardens throughout history. Nebuchadnezzar II, the powerful king of Babylon, had orchestrated the Babylonian exile, taking Jews captive after the destruction of the kingdom of Judah. This resulted in the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, God's house for Jews. The Hebrew scribes who recorded the history and beliefs of the Jews had no love for Nebuchadnezzar II or his city. They believed that their God resided in the temple in Jerusalem, and its destruction led to a search for explanations. Jewish priests concluded that the people had strayed to worship other gods and had not given due attention to exclusive worship of Yahweh. This led to a revision of Judaism during the Second Temple period, focusing on monotheistic belief and practice. The narratives that would become Jewish scriptures were edited to fit this new focus, highlighting exclusive worship of Yahweh and the importance of monotheism. Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar II are portrayed negatively in the Bible. Babylon is described as a city of sin and wickedness, while Nebuchadnezzar II is portrayed as a stubborn tyrant who is punished by God. In the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar II is portrayed as someone who recognizes the power of Daniel's God, but only submits to him after being driven mad and restored by God. Although Nebuchadnezzar II is mentioned elsewhere, it is primarily the book of Daniel that cemented his negative reputation for the wider public. When the king created a golden idol and decreed that all should bow before it, 3 young Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refused. Even in the face of being thrown into a furnace, they maintained their faith in God. The king ordered that the 3 young men be thrown into the blazing furnace, but to everyone's surprise they were miraculously saved by God's power and emerged unscathed. Daniel was also blessed by God with the ability to interpret dreams. He used this ability to correctly interpret a vision of a tree that the king had. But the most dramatic event occurred when a voice from heaven declared that Nebuchadnezzar would go mad. And so it happened. The king was driven from men, ate grass like an ox, and his body was wet with the dew of heaven. He went mad for 7 years, exactly as the voice from heaven had predicted. However, after 7 years, Nebuchadnezzar's sanity was restored, and he acknowledged the power of God. He gave praises to God for all that had happened. The book of Daniel is a fascinating narrative about faith and God's power in the midst of adversity. Although there is no external corroboration for the story of Nebuchadnezzar's madness, the central message is clear: God is powerful and faithful. Unlike the negative narratives found in some sources, Nebuchadnezzar II is portrayed in other stories as a great king known for restoring ancient Babylon's glory and for his grand vision for the city. Under Nebuchadnezzar II's rule, Babylon became a marvelous city, a center for the arts, intellectual pursuits, and with equal rights for women. Literacy, mathematics, science, and craftsmanship flourished, along with tolerance and interest in the beliefs of other cultures and religions. Nebuchadnezzar II had a grand vision for Babylon, and he made that vision a reality. His wise and just leadership brought prosperity and greatness to the city, which became the center of the known world at the time. However, Nebuchadnezzar II's story had a tragic end. He died peacefully of natural causes in the city he had built after a reign of 43 years. But unfortunately, Babylon could not maintain its greatness for long. After Nebuchadnezzar II's death, Babylon fell to the Persians in 539 BC and never regained the grandeur it had known under his reign. Later efforts to restore it, such as those by Alexander the Great, failed to bring back its lost glory.